out of here by midnight.
Midnight tonight?
I didn't say when. That's exactly right. I didn't say which night.
Thank you, Brian. You know, when I first thought about running for office, the first thoughts I had is I'm not qualified. And so I tried to get my buddy to run. And he was too smart. He was tall, good looking, but no takers. And you know, when you have colleagues like this, you realize something. This is what we need. This is the hope of our country. Our country right now is at a crossroads. And there's no middle ground. Many of you may have been through war, may have fought in wars. When people are shooting at you, you've got two things to do. Get cover and start shooting back. To do that, you need ammunition. And you need guns. And they're coming for you guys. They came to my office and invited me to take them off the wall. They were offended that I brought rifles into the Capitol and put them on my wall because I'm proud to be a constitutional Tea Party American who believes in what I believe in. So when they... the Attorney General sent somebody to take the guns off my wall, I was getting on an airplane and I said, you know what, you tell her to go fly a kite. Number one. Number two, you tell the authorities in the building that we respect that I will respectfully relinquish my firearms when I get to the building and when they arrest me. And if they take me away in handcuffs, then I guess they can take my guns. But unless they're willing to do that, they're not going to touch them. I'm not taking them down off that wall. And when they do it, there's going to be 20 news cameras there. And my chief of staff said, well, we'll bet you out. I said, no, you won't. Because I want the NRA, I want the Gun Owners of America, I want every gun group, because we're going to get some free media out of this.
Good deal.
There isn't any time. And there is no they. There's nobody who's going to come and rescue us. There's nobody who's going to come and fight for our liberties. If you're in a foxhole, or if you were storming a beach on D-Day, there wasn't any place to hide on those beaches. You had to crawl over your buddies who were dead or dying and keep shooting and running and hoping and praying that you could get somewhere and make some kind of difference. That's where we are. If you're familiar with history and you know the night that George Washington rallied his troops for that one last battle, because everybody thought the cause was finished. There was no hope. It was this tiny band of rebels. And we were beaten, bloody, and we were starving, and we had no shoes, and we had hardly any ammo left. And George Washington, I believe, was inspired by God because he was on his knees. And there were people on their knees praying that this tiny band of rebels would defeat the greatest army in the world. And he leaned down and he wrote 3 inspired words in the dust of a cabin in front of his commanders. And it was Christmas night, it was snowing, they're about to cross a river. They haven't eaten. They're going to be facing professional soldiers who are well-fed, who are relaxed, who have armaments to the teeth, who are ready to fight, and who are trained. And he wrote 3 words. And these 3 words, I believe, represent the challenge facing us. He wrote victory or death. If we don't win, if we don't beat back the forces of evil, that want to take away our liberties and want to force on us an agenda and tell us how to think. Forget about the homosexual issue. Think about the fact that they want to tell you that you must teach your children this. Something that goes completely against what you believe in. And if we don't stand up and say no, then we don't deserve to be free. We don't deserve liberty. And our children and our children's children will never know it. That's what's at stake. My colleagues have details. They have pedigrees. I have none. I'm proof that anybody can win. Because I'm one of those bloodied, starving, broken men who decided to run for office. You probably wondered why. The day I decided to run for office, that morning I had a plan. My plan was to drop my son off at school, drive back up the mountain. It was far. It was going to be perfect. I was going to drive off the cliff and kill myself because I couldn't make a living. My industry had been destroyed. My customers were fleeing the state. I was broke. My bank accounts were both overdrawn that day. And I decided that it was time that I do something for my family. I had a life insurance policy. I didn't know that my wife had stopped making payments. I was trading stocks to try to survive, trading what was left of my $250,000 savings that was now down to less than $10,000, and I had lost about 3/4 of it that night. And I turned on the radio to listen to the stock report. I hate talk radio. I never listened to it. I've been on it a million times, but I just wanted to hear the stock report. And there's a guy on it. And he's talking about driving off a cliff and killing himself to feed his family. He's being interviewed by Bill Handel on KFI, talking about, think about that. It was like God just reached down and said, you know what, Tim? I've been calling you and calling you and calling you, and you've been ignoring me and hanging up. And I'm going to save you one more time. Because I couldn't drive any further. I pulled over and I broke down. Because I knew God was reaching down and He was touching my life and telling me, your life is worth something. And you need to have a purpose. This man talked about having a purpose. And I knew I needed a purpose beyond day trading stocks and trying to figure out how to rebuild my business. There has to be something in our party deeper and stronger, and we have to be talking about something more than just watering down a message so that we can win in a place that we've lost because we've lost our souls. And so I got home, and my brother called. And I have 14 brothers and sisters. I haven't talked to my brother in 2 years. I've called him, left him messages, and he never calls me back. I didn't notice it because I had so many brothers. He says, Tim, I want to tell you something. The Lord told me to call you today, and I'm being obedient. Because I've been mad at you because you were so tough on illegal immigration. And I hired guys that are illegally in the country to run my landscape business. And I think you're wrong about the issue, but I'm calling to apologize, and that's why I haven't called you. And I really wanted to argue with my brother. But something stuck. And for 45 minutes, my brother laid out a vision of leadership. He started talking about what it would take to take back our country. He started talking to me about how people could get together, forget about political parties, how Henry Ford had failed 3 times, and how he won a race and inspired. He should have given up. He had 3 failed companies. He started a company in the middle of the Depression, but he won a race. He won a little race, a promotional race, and he got people to believe him. And he said, you know what? You need to stand up. You can speak. You can talk to people. God gave me this gift. And I asked my brother, I said, well, dude, I'm overdrawn at the bank. What are you talking about? He said, I've been living like that for 8 years. He said, here's what I do. I call people that know more than me, and I ask them for advice. And something always happens. So I took his advice. I got off the phone. I made some phone calls. People owed me money, but they weren't paying. And I said, look, I've never been overdrawn at the bank. I've always had good credit. You've known me for 20 years. I'm in trouble, and I need your help. And I wrote a little paragraph email, and I just said, look, if you'll pay your bill early, I'll give you 5% off. I had the owner of a company call me personally that I hadn't talked to in 8 years, because I deal with an owner. And this guy says, you know what? He says, what's going on with my order? And I immediately know. What's going on? That means he's got cancer now. I'm really screwed. And I said, I'm shipping it next week. He said, that's great, because I'm writing you a check today in full for my entire order before it even ships. And that day, I fell to my knees and I sobbed before the Lord. And I said, you know what, God? Whatever it is you want me to do. And that day happened to be the same day that my friend that I was trying to get to run for office told me he wasn't going to run. And I made 3 phone calls that evening to try to get people to talk me out of running for office. And every one of them was enthusiastic. And every one of them said you should run. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because I know there's people here who are saying, not me, who are saying, I can't do anything, who are saying, I'm not qualified. Ladies and gentlemen, you're the patriots. You are the patriots who showed up. So if not you, then who? And if not now,